tired. I actually fainted. And that's what really started the whole thing. I could not deal with blood product. And I couldn't watch another brain surgery. I just couldn't deal with it. So I told him, I said, I got to do something else. I can't deal with this. I'm starting to have nightmares, and it's traumatizing. So they said, we have an opportunity for you. You can go to work for Laser Systems and Electronics. He said, this is a NASA spin-off company that's working with some highly classified behavior modification research technologies. I was vice president in charge of sales. I worked with this company exactly 1 year for my contract, and then the company was solidly broken up. They were the first ones working with General Medical Corporation, and this is going to be classified, so I can tell you. They were the first ones to develop a behavioral implant. It was a small telemetric device that would not only send, but it would receive messages, and it would stimulate various regions of the brain, whatever needed to be stimulated. And it was put in through a procedure called the transsphenoidal hyposectomy. I went into the nasal cavity, or went into the sinus cavity through the nasal passage. Relatively bloodless, and it was totally a disaster. Those things didn't work. The whole project folded up, and the government walked away from it. But the CIA, along about 1973, and again in 1977, and again in the mid-80s, they put out all this information. And they put it out in a way of conspiracy-type information about implants for controlling people's minds. And to this day, to this very day, I hear about these implants that people have in their brains that control them. There have been many movies that featured this. The fact is, they don't need implants to control someone's mind. They are far less intrusive, highly sophisticated means using microwave, directed lasers, and a whole host of other ways, including HARP. We'll get into all of this in our workshop to control the human mind. But you see, even as benevolent as I thought this research was, I wasn't seeing it coming from the private sector. One day, a NASA scientist who I befriended told me, he said, you know, it takes 25 years for anything that we're doing to reach the private sector. I said, why? Because this has military application. I said, he said, listen, by the year 2000, our prisons and our mental institutions will be virtually emptied. I've been assured of that. So I'm not supposed to tell you that, but I've been assured of that. Oh, wow. Wow. I was really a small part of a very important research project. And I felt proud inside. I felt pride. But I didn't like working in the medical field. I don't like surgeries. I don't feel the doctors. No offense if any of you guys doctors in here. Just I don't like medical doctors. I avoid them at all costs because of their program. So I said, listen, is there something else I can do a little more glamorous? And I had a job offer from Revlon that I thought, wow, now this is too cool. I will work for Revlon. And I interviewed in New York, and they were ready to hire me. And all of a sudden, I get this offer that I can't refuse. My home originally was Nashville, Tennessee. I was living in Atlanta. And I got an offer to work for Capital International Airways. The company had been around a long time, formed in 1947. They were flying a lot of military Air Command MAC flights. They were the world's largest supplemental airline. They had, at that time, jumbo jets, big DC-8 stretches, 252 passengers, and they were flying charters all over the world. But they needed somebody with a high clearance. So I thought, I don't know why, unless because of something in the military. I didn't realize that later on there'd be a book published referencing me as a bad guy because I was working as a senior officer and vice president for Capital International Airways, who was a primary carrier for Project Paperclip. And it had been moving the families around of these Nazi and fascist scientists for 44 years. You see, I didn't know this. And what did I tell you? That I didn't know I had been working for the CIA. I thought I worked for the Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA. That was who I was paid. That's who I worked for. I had no clue. And I was told many times on the side, you work for the CIA. I said, no, I was trained on it, but I don't work for it. I work for the DIA. So I said, yes, I do. And so when I worked for Capital, one of the guys that had been there forever came up to me and he said, how does it feel to work for a company you can actually have the initials on your shirt? Finally. I said, what are you talking about? He said, we're CIA. I said, no, Capital International Airways. I was a slow learner, I suppose. But the president of the airlines, he sold airlines to some Iranians. How convenient. And the acting chief executive officer liked me, so he said, let's form an airline in Alaska. So we did. Great Northern Airlines. When I found out what Great Northern Airlines was doing, they couldn't wean Air Alaska out of business. And they were destroying, through a genocide program, the natives that were sitting on top of one of the largest oil reserves in the world. When I found this out, I decided I'd had enough. And I knew that I couldn't get away from them because it's kind of like a mafia. So I went into business for myself, had an antique business. I made it to the point where I actually had a seat at Christie's. I decided that it was easier for me to make money selling a whole lot of stuff than it was one item, just hoping I was going to make a lot of money off of it. For one item every 2 or 3 months. And my name was in the paper so much, though, when I was with Capital International Airways, that there was a fellow that contacted me who was a country music entertainer. He was an MC, ventriloquist. There's actually a man in here that actually filmed him and filmed Cathy and filmed her daughter here in Canada. Quite a validation. This fellow contacted me. He said, we need somebody that has your international expertise to go to Hong Kong